What's happening, YouTube? Let me just make a announcement in the chat. Okay. Announcement in the chat. Now we do tick tock, diggy, diggy, diggy. You don't stop. All right. My boy is too old for these. Let's see. I'm going to answer this comment first. How old is your boy? Question mark. Take a quick look at this. Crushing. Everyone's crushing. Good morning, Hardwood Bear. About to just grab TikTok, get them on the line. We're going to do our Wednesday Q&A. Foster Bear, good morning. Daughter is down for an early nap. Oh, you're winning the day. It's cleaning time for Mama Bear. That's awesome. All right, let's grab TikTok. Little Wednesday homeschool Q&A. Homeschool Q&A. What do you say today? Okay. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, TikTok. You are here with YouTube, and it is a beautiful day here in the sunny south. I can see a bird flying right across my yard at the moment. My son's already rescued a bug, gave him a thing of popcorn and 2 strawberries, and we are cruising here. It is 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I got 2 banging videos out. Give it one of them. Apparently, he's not doing that well, but what can I say? It's really valuable, people. I can't control what people value. I just put out the gravy. So, yeah, I did a video this morning on if you want to teach your children about how politics, politics and conspiracies and war are controlled by money or influenced by money. Apparently, that wasn't popular, but I digress. I don't know why you wouldn't want your children to know that, so I said they should read The Creature from Jekyll Island and watch a documentary put out by the Corbett Report. So if you could have your children watch that, and they'll understand the world a lot more, or not. So today is our Wednesday homeschool Q&A, and you have questions, and I may or may not have answers, but I'll do my best to answer them. I consider myself a homeschool authority, but that doesn't mean I know everything. But more and more people are figuring out that the school system is garbage, and they want answers, and they want to find out how to better educate their children. And the first step, just pulling your children out of public school on itself, gives them a leg up over their peers because they're not being indoctrinated. They're not being exposed to all of the division nonsense. They're not being exposed to perverted messaging, which, in my opinion, some of the things they show children in these public schools, if someone pulled up to them in a van and showed them the text, it would, arguably be a felony, right? And more importantly than anything else, your children are not being conditioned to outsource their thinking to authority. And the biggest travesty of public school, even worse than all of the stuff that everyone points out, the obvious stuff, like why are you exposing our children to this stuff? But the less obvious lesson is that public schools teach children to outsource their thinking to authority. By the way, this is our Wednesday Q&A. Fire away. Fire away. Public schools teach children that truth comes from authority. If you think about it, I mean, they're lectured by a teacher, and they're usually given multiple choice tests after about 3 weeks. And if they could repeat back what was said to them, they're said to be knowledgeable in a certain area. But they don't really know if it's true. They haven't gotten back to primary sources or anything like that. They are just regurgitating what is usually politically driven nonsense. And if you don't believe me that it's politically driven nonsense, I could go over the history of how it became politically driven nonsense, because there's a history of how they rewrote history. And after World War I, the Carnegie Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Guggenheim Foundation, they got together and they had an objective of preventing the public from getting back to an anti-war mindset. Now, why would they want that? That's a discussion for another day, but that's what they wanted. So what they did is they took out $400,000 in student loan grants, and they handpicked 20 college students throughout the country, gave them these grants. And within 15 years, those 20 college students made up the governing board of the American Historical Association. And what do? They are influential. They were more influential back then, but they're still very influential as to what determines best practices for how history teachers are educated, history teachers, and best practices for what goes into history textbook. And of course, what becomes best practices? Well, all of the narratives, the historical narratives that our children are it's fed down their throat, that we hear about from Hollywood time and time again, all of the absolute, complete, and utter nonsense. I'm going to go back, start answering your questions. You have questions about homeschooling, fire away, let's do it. You have questions about other stuff, I might answer, I might not. I'll see how I feel about it. I don't know anything about astrophysics, and my son is 11. How can I help him advance? Well, for one, you could go through the journey of learning astrophysics with him. But for a topic like astrophysics, I would strongly recommend getting a curriculum which is designed to teach astrophysics, because we can't be experts in, you're not going to be an expert in astrophysics. You're not going to be an expert in chemistry and calculus, right? I mean, maybe you are in one of those areas, but if not, you want to get a textbook. You want to get material that is designed to teach astrophysics, and then from there, what you want to do is start to find experiments, right? You want your child to be able to do hands-on experiments where they could actually test things out for themselves. And you could find those experiments on Pinterest. You could find those experiments online. You could type in astrophysics unit study onto Google, and I guarantee you there are amazing unit studies available. You can get involved in a co-op in which there's a parent in your co-op who actually is knowledgeable on that subject, and you could have them do the astrophysics. You could hire a tutor, right? So there's so many different ways to learn things. You could go to science museums, which is really great, a great way to introduce topics like astrophysics. So there's really no one right way to do it. But ultimately, with that, you want your children, they can use text material to get a foundation, and then what you want to do is find experiments so that they can actually be observing and testing things for themselves. I really love taking children places where they can look through big telescopes, getting them a telescope for themselves, a P900 camera. Did the reception just cut? Did the reception just cut? A P900 camera, which is a great way to view the celestial bodies, right? So there's so many different things you can do. Don't feel like you have to take it all on yourself, and you don't have to be an expert in everything. In fact, if you sit down and learn it with your children, it's almost a better way to teach it, because you're actually going through the process of how to learn. So that's a good question. It's a very good question. What's up, fam? I love your content, but I feel I have a lot to learn. A lot of what you know before I can teach my kids. Well, think about it this way. I write books, right? I wrote the book The Bear from Jekyll Island, Operation Mockingbird, and the Church Committee, which is all just living history about historical events. The creation of the Federal Reserve Bank, the congressionally documented history of fake news. Um, the Church Committee was a 1970s congressional committee that looked into the secret operations of the CIA, right? That's what that's about. Well, this morning I posted a video on my Cubs to Bears channel, which didn't get as much love as my other videos, and it pisses me off because this is the stuff that's actually really valuable. And in that video, I said that you should have your children read The Creature from Jekyll Island, which is what my book, The Bear from Jekyll Island, is based on. The Creature from Jekyll Island, and then watch a documentary put together by the Corbett Report called The World War I Conspiracy. And then after that, have your children write an essay on the role that the banking system plays in funding and promoting war. You don't have to know anything about the role the banking system plays in funding and promoting war, and you just gave your child a fantastic education in the role the bankers play in funding and promoting war. See, you don't have to know everything. You just have to find the right resources, the right materials, get them to your children. And then you can have your children read The Creature from Jekyll Island, or with an audiobook read it if that's easier, if that's their learning style. Then watch the documentary, The World War I Conspiracy, put together by the Corbett Report, and they will understand the role that bankers play in promoting and funding war, right? So, like, you don't have to know everything to teach it. Your job is kind of to be that facilitator, to be that guide, to challenge your children where they need to be challenged, and to give them a master's degree, quote unquote, in the process of learning itself and critical thinking, right? Because as long as they're learning the process of learning, as they get older into high school and whatnot, they'll be able to start driving their education to where they want it to go. And that's ultimately the goal. Like, my goal isn't for when my son gets to high school for me to be like, do this, do that. My goal is for when my son gets to high school, he has enough experience in the process of learning that he can start to drive his own education based on whatever it is he's interested in at the time. And that will change time and time again, and that's fine. Multiplication help. My son needs help with memorizing. Games you recommend? Yes. Think Tank Scholar. Go on to Amazon, type in Think Tank Scholar multiplication game, and there's a really cool game designed to teach multiplication. Also, every child, in my opinion, I would at least try the Life of Fred mathematics system. Life of Fred, type that right into Amazon. It uses the Charlotte Mason style and teaches children mathematics through story. And every parent that has used Life of Fred has came back to me and said, thank you for recommending Life of Fred. So that's what I'm going to use with my son, because that's been my experience. So why wouldn't I? Just got to stretch my back. Woke up and my back was giving me fits. All right. We're a good home. Yeah, I mean, we have the best homeschool community on the entire internet. Homeschool's connected, in my opinion. I mean, there's probably other fantastic homeschool communities, but, you know, I can't vouch because I haven't experienced every one of them. But our community is just above reproach. It's phenomenal. All right. Hi, everyone. Now, our community definitely is the best because the level of awakeness in our community is just phenomenal. Like, you want to educate your children, get them in Homeschools Connected. Hardwood Bear, currently going through The Lost History of Flat Earth, Season 2, and he's currently going over how the titans of literature, like Dickens, were used to cement, the public mind. That's an interesting topic. Hardwood Bear, where are you watching the? That sounds interesting. I love stuff like this. Like I love I love the idea of children actually doing their own science experiments, like learning about propaganda, learning about manipulation, like getting a P900 camera and seeing how far into the horizon you could see, and like doing calculations with, all right, what are the calculations for curvature of the Earth, and how far can we see, and does that mesh? Like everything about learning should just be hands-on experiments and doing that stuff. And if you do that, children get a phenomenal education. These lives are my absolute favorite. Well, we're happy to have you here. I suggest looking into Cubs to Bears. We are happy to hear that. All right. Yeah, the whole world is propaganda. I mean, propaganda even itself isn't inherently terrible if you're propagating truth. It's just the way the system uses propaganda, it's to propagate lies. So it's like, and to get people to support wars and Ponzi schemes. So it's like, it's also boring to me. I fall asleep halfway through, but I'll look into your suggestions. Yeah, I mean, listen, astrophysics isn't for everyone, right? Pinterest has great cheat sheets for multiplication. Yes, it does. Kiana Gonzalez in the house. I love that. Get a master's in learning. Yo, that's what you want your children to have. You want them to have a master's degree in the process of learning and critical thinking, because everything else is nonsense. I could tell you, I believe this. You could tell me you believe that, but who cares? Like, so what? You have your child memorize something you believe. It doesn't mean anything to them, right? Like, get them into the process of figuring things out for themselves, and they will do fine in this world. They'll do fine. Is 3 a good age to start homeschooling? I don't know why you waited 3 years. Just messing with you. Yeah, it's great age. It's great age. You're probably talking about formal education. Sure, like you could do ABC, Jesus Loves Me, and Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool. They have lesson plans that are free. Really cool. A lot of stuff with cooking, fine motor activities, art stuff, the Prodigy's music program, Piano K, depending on your child's makeup. I've tried my son on Piano K, and he really hasn't taken to it yet, so I pushed it back, but I have the material, and once he's ready, I'll reintroduce it, because I'm very passionate about him being musical, but he hasn't gotten into piano yet, so when he's ready. But I do love it. Like, I have the program, and I love it. Like, Piano K is phenomenal. So is Prodigy's music, which I also have. Am I the only one that takes note during lives? Appreciate that. Appreciate that. I try to say at least one thing every day that offends the worldview of every single person in here. Because that's how, like, you want a community of people with open minds. Like, I want to weed out the people that are like, how dare you? Like, go away. Like, we don't need you. Like, I want a community of free thinkers and open-minded people, and those are the people I want to attract into Homeschools Connected. Like, I want our students to study interesting things. Like, I want our students to do a study into Tartaria and the world fairs and, like, mud floods and all of these, like, kooky conspiracy things that, by the way, I think some of them are true. Like, I don't have to get into which ones I think are true and which ones I don't, but, like, I want my child to grow up in a culture where he looks into literally everything and he dissects the propaganda in everything, and he does experiments for himself with everything, like, because that's how you really learn. That's how you get a degree in the process of learning. And you'll get like these people that are like, oh, you can't study this or you can't study that. You are cheating your children if you're telling them not to study this or not to study that. Like, as soon as you think you know everything, just know you know nothing. Like, and that's why I know things, right? The reason I know things is because I tell myself all the time that I know nothing. And that allows me to keep an open mind and to really look into all these topics. Like, one of the topics that I looked into that, like, you'll get into the truth community and everyone's like, oh, like, this topic is like, if you don't believe this, is the Mandela effect, right? And like, for the longest time, everyone was like, Mandela, Mandela, Mandela. And I looked into it and I never bought into it. Like, and now some people have come back to my point of view, but like, I looked into that and I was like, no, I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a second, honestly. And people were like, oh, you don't know? They changed this, like the movie, The Field of Dreams changed. And I look into that, I'm like, no, I don't see it, right? But like, looking into that stuff is fun. And you want your children to grow up in a culture where they're looking into all this stuff and they're capable of thinking freely and they're not judged for thinking freely. And, that stuff's awesome. Good morning, y'all. I homeschool both my kids. My son will be 30 next month, and my daughter is 21. That's amazing. It impresses me how much he knows off the top of his head. Ooh, Mrs. Classical Learner. All right. All right. You flirting with me, girl? No, I mean, I'm definitely not a human dictionary. Like, I bet you, like, Hardware Bear, who's in here every day, I bet you he knows more about most of this stuff than I do. Like, I know a lot because I'm passionate about this stuff and I study this stuff. But, like, it's also because I roll in circles with people who are smarter than me, who are more well-researched than me. Like, there's the guy in our community that, like, people are like, oh, Gunter. But, like, Gunter in our community, I guarantee you Gunter knows more about, like, history and propaganda and all of the stuff that people know me for knowing about. I guarantee you Gunter knows more about all that stuff than me. Like, I actually, when I have questions about things, I inbox Gunter and I'm like, can you let me know if this is true? And he gets back to me in like 2 hours and he's like, this is what I found. True, false. And like, I surround myself with people that are free thinkers. I surround myself with people that have an open mind. And because of that, and because I remind myself that the true wise man knows he knows nothing, right? Socrates said that. This is ancient wisdom. Socrates said, true wisdom is to know you know nothing. Because once you know nothing, you keep an open mind and you take on new information and start to look into things. And when you do that, you start to discover truths. And even some of those truths you'll discover, you'll later find out, oh, that wasn't true. But that's okay because you're always learning. And that's how you grow as a person. Like, that's how you become stronger mentally and stronger as a person. And that's how you give your children that degree in critical thinking where they don't get bogged down to like, are you a denier? You don't trust the science? You didn't trust the science? Like, no, I don't trust your religious doctrine of scientism. Yeah, you give me too much credit. He definitely knows more. I just assume anyone with a bear in their name knows everything. Like the bear community is so impressive at large in terms of like being well researched, and I just assume anyone with bear in their name is relatively brilliant. I'm interested in more info about germ theory versus terrain theory. Gunter would know. So that's one of the things I've been pissed off about. And that's why, could someone volunteer for the podcast? I was on here yesterday. I was like, if you want to volunteer to help out with the podcast, email me at classicallearnertoday@gmail.com. And because if I do this podcast, I'll do it once a week. I'll interview one person a week. And I'll do the first hour just gravy, like, what do you know? Tell us what you know. The second hour will be for members of our community only, which will be how do you educate children on what you know? What are the best resources, right? And then I could, but like I'm gonna have to get the equipment. One, I'm gonna have to buy equipment for that, so like that's slightly annoying. But I'll do it if you guys are really into it. I'll buy the equipment that I need to like get the right audio and whatnot, which slightly frustrating, but I'll do that if it's for the podcast. Then I have to book the people, so I would need someone to book interesting people. Then I myself would have to do research on that person before I had them on to put together like my questions. I'd have to film it. I'd have to edit the film afterwards, which like is so annoying. In fact, if someone wanted to volunteer to book the podcast, if someone wanted to volunteer to do the editing of the audio, the video audio after, that would be amazingly helpful. And if someone wanted to volunteer to do the uploads onto different platforms, that would be incredibly helpful. That would be amazing, because that's going to take up a lot of my time. And with the nature unit study, with the classes I teach, with running Homeschools Connected, with doing all the marketing for Homeschools Connected, with doing all the sales for Homeschools Connected, like I got my plate full. And but I'm very interested in the podcast. And the reason terrain theory versus germ theory prompted my mind to think about that is I asked Twitter, I asked Instagram, I asked Homeschools Connected, I asked Gab, if anyone knows of any good curriculums for terrain theory versus germ theory, that children that are like handmade curriculums ready to go for parents. And no one had a good answer. And that, I see a big gap in the education community. So like, if I could use the podcast to help fill that gap, because our children should be able to have a whole curriculum put together, terrain theory versus germ theory. What is terrain theory? What is germ theory? What scientific evidence is there for terrain theory? What scientific evidence is there for germ theory? In what ways can you read studies on terrain theory? Can you read studies on germ theory? In what ways is it possible to test terrain theory and to test germ theory? Which, you know, with that topic, that might be a little tough to have them run their own experiments. But like, that is how children should be educated, right? Not, this is germ theory and this is the truth. Then why do you call it a theory? This is the Big Bang Theory. You have to be dropped on your head to think the Big Bang Theory is true. Like, go spend a day and look at what the Big Bang Theory actually is, and then you'll be like, oh, people believe this? Like, so much of science is actually pseudoscience, and it's just authority-based nonsense to gain funding. Like, you get the Big Bang Theory, and they literally, like, they were like, the universe is this many years old. And then they're like, we've discovered a star that is this old. And you're like, wait a second, that's older than the whole universe, according to Big Bang Theory. And they're like, oh, well, you know, actually, we're just going to readjust Big Bang Theory. And it just happened sooner. And you're like, oh, so you're like, so let me get this straight. There was nothing. And then nothing exploded and started infinitely expanding. And when nothing exploded, all of these gigantic balls of rocks, right, that you're going to call planets, and all of these stars, which came from nothing, started burning, right, all over the universe, and they expanded, and then they formed these quote-unquote, these solar systems, right, in which these planets formed in perfect balls, and they started going on orbits perfectly around one another, and all of the perfect circumstances came where life came from nothing, and then, although they've never replicated life coming from nothing, right? Like, they've tried to create life out of nothing, and they've never been able to do it. They took a swimming pool, and they put a swimming pool in a lifeless environment, and they put oxygen in it, and they blasted it with electricity for 20 straight years, because they were like, okay, we could replicate the circumstances which created life on Earth, except they never were able to do it, right? So, like, all of this perfect symmetry in nature, like the pi, right? The Fibonacci sequence, which is everywhere in nature, right? Life emerging from nothing, the solar system, and like these planets allegedly doing these perfect orbits around one another, right? All this order, all of this perfect order, right? Like the universe is perfect order. The sun, the moon, compared their distance to the earth, right? Right? The temperature, perfect order. And that came from nothing exploding and chaos. But what is what is it? The second rule of physics, or the first rule of physics, is that the universe constantly breaks down. Like, if I drop this and it shatters into a bunch of pieces, right? It will never put itself back together. In a million years, this will not put itself back together. But that's what the universe does, right? It exploded, and then it put itself, after an explosion, it went into a state of perfect harmony and order, right? Right? So, like, it's pseudoscience. It's nonsense. It's scientism. And, like, a lot of people will tune out of the stream for what I'm saying right now. They'll be like, what is this guy talking about? He's lost. Like, no, if you're lost if you think that. And it's fine. Like, you could teach your children that. But they should be doing their own experiments and really learning. Because if you're just having to memorize this stuff, like, their worldview will be nonsense. And the thing about when you have children memorize this stuff is it gets so ingrained into their psyche that they become those adults who are like, are you a denier? Do you deny science? Like, do you deny doctor wants to give you an ouchie? Right? He wants to give you an ouchie. Are you denying? Are you a denier? Right? Like, what do you mean you won't get the procedure? You won't get the procedure? Do you not care about grandma? Like, this is where all this stuff comes from. Right? This is indoctrination that is so propagated into the youth. Like, by the time children are 3 years old, I remember one of my friends who has an open mind to the world was, like, traumatized because she brought up this stuff to her daughter, and her daughter was 6 years old at the time, and said, oh, no, Mom, I won't even consider that. I won't even fathom that. 6 years old. It had been so ingrained in her psychology that it couldn't be anything other than the Big Bang Theory. Think about that. I used to think that it was just a false humility statement back when I thought I knew the truth. Right. No, you realize when you really start to dig to things, like, you realize, like, holy crap, I know nothing. Like, you will discover, if you haven't done it and you really start digging, you might not know the answers. Like, that's another major flaw in human psychology. People think, like, if they discover something's false about their worldview, they think they have to instantly replace it with a new answer. Like, I don't know. Like, it's okay to not know. Like, it's fine. Right? Like, oh, so if it's not the Big Bang Theory, what is it? I don't know. You know, I believe in divine creation, but, like, that could take many different forms. Like, it's, you know, and the reason I believe in creation is because of the order within everything, right? Because of the Fibonacci sequence, because of pi, because of orbits around one another, because of the perfect sequence, right? It's organized, right? That's why I believe in creation. But, like, you know, it's like you don't have to replace what you know with something. Like, And it's a major flaw in human psychology to think you have to do that. Be champ or pastor, a lost chapter in history or biology. Is that a book? Is that a book? Oh, this is the book of the history of germ theory. Oh, okay. The history of germ theory versus terrain theory. Hardwood Bear. This is why earlier I was like, Hardwood Bear probably knows more than me. So, Hardwood Bear is saying, be champ or pastor, a lost chapter in the history of biology. Like, and for anyone who's like, oh, that's nonsense, look into the history of electricity, right? This is well documented history. Like, this isn't conspiracy theory. Look into the history of Thomas Edison versus Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla figured out how to give people essentially free electricity. And Thomas Edison figured out how to give people electricity that you could always charge them for. Guess which electricity we use today? So, like, you understand that all of these sciences are driven by the same sin that corrupts everything. It's just people wanting their status, their greed, their money, and it corrupts the science. And because of that, most of the science that is taught into mainstream is nonsense. I can't wait to get to these comments because
I was gonna tell you have to look through them.
yeah, I'm gonna get to them. I'm behind them by like 34 messages. But when I start going off on these rants, I just can't wait to go down.
Talk about what we do with screen time. The question was asked twice.
I'm gonna get to screen time, but first I have to talk about every conspiracy I've ever come across.
We're gonna be here all day.
First, I have to go through every conspiracy dating back to the year 1700. Screen time. I mean, the best thing to do with screen time is, in my opinion, is to not have your children on the screens. But I understand that's very hard, and I haven't achieved that myself. So you could do reward systems. You can do screen time, like you get screen time after you do certain things. But I think the best way to do it is to just use it strategically. Like, use screen time when you and your husband or you and your wife have to do something and you just need your child to be distracted for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the best answer to screen time, you're ridiculous. Nicole is flailing her arms, getting chased by, is that a bee? What is that chasing you? By her own hair. Come talk to the people. Come say hi to the people. Oh, you look fine. Come. You look beautiful. And when you were flirting with me before, telling me about how I have so much knowledge, I mean, I didn't think that type of flirtation was appropriate for our chat, but it's fine.
Hello. That piece of hair I thought was a spider.
She's flailing her arms.
I thought it was on my head. All right, I was scared for my life. I thought I was going to die.
She thought she was going to die. What do you do for state testing? For state testing, you have your children take the state test. So what I do is I would make sure that... Can you lower that?
Well, I'm putting on my hair so the spider hairs don't attack me anymore.
I would make sure that my children are exposed to the different material that will be on state tests, because you want them to have exposure to it so that they can at least, you want them to do well on the test, right? Don't teach to the test. Don't do any of that nonsense. But yeah, just expose them to the different things they'll be tested on. And have them take the test. It's not a big deal. Homeschool students outperform public school and private school students by a significant margin on state testing. Appreciate your efforts. My 2-year-old daughter loves guitar. Yeah, Piano K. You won't regret it. It's awesome. It basically teaches children not only to play songs like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but to actually read the music before they even know how to read, which is pretty cool. History is difficult. My oldest is 9. Yeah, but history is the easiest subject because you could literally just have your child read historical books, watch historical documentaries, and ideally you want them to just read, like as they get older, start to read primary historical accounts. Like have them read the writings of Abraham Lincoln and the writings of Stonewall Jackson, right? And then they could they could get the perspectives of people on both sides of historical events, and then they could just make up their own mind. So he's going to love the drums. This one, to the ones that are new, this guy's Discord lessons and plans have me homeschooling all 4 of my kids. Yeah, so we have a year-long nature unit study in which children are doing the stuff that are actually, like, I like to talk about the conspiracies, and the reason I bring them up is I like people to have an open mind, and I like people to always take on new information. And if I myself don't take on the topics that bring on the how dare you people, like, I have to be willing to weed out the people that are like, my doctrine, right? Otherwise, I'm not doing a good job for my community because we want to raise free thinkers. But that stuff isn't even as important as the real skills that you develop in your children. Because, like, you want your children when they're 18 years old to be capable of living a free and independent life where they're not reliant on the system. They're not reliant on the government. They're not reliant on corporations. And they're not reliant on you as the parent. And the way you do that is through critical thinking, skill development, and entrepreneurial experience. And we're doing a year-long nature unit study in which our students are planting seeds, building indoor greenhouses, constructing garden boxes outside, like real construction garden boxes, composting soil, making fertilizer out of bananas, and we're going to have them do more stuff with fertilizer later on. Constructing ladybug feeders, making bee baths, making candles out of beeswax, planting seeds, growing their own crops. All right, so they're developing real-world skills, and children of all ages can do this. And the lesson plan that I'm releasing later today, the unit study, that for everyone that's behind in our lesson, I want you to jump forward to the lesson plan this week. I'm going to post it later today. We are guiding the children to start their own summer flower business in which they grow their own flowers, and then they're either going to sell their flowers in a front yard sale, door to door, at a farmer's market, or they're going to contact local garden centers and florists and try to sell wholesale. And that develops an entrepreneurial mindset and gets them entrepreneurial experience. And this is the type of education you give your children that actually leads to them living that free and independent life that we as parents all want, that most 30-year-olds don't have, right? So, like, that's how we do it, and that's what's really important. And then, I also teach courses. So I teach courses on identifying propaganda using the Cubs to Bears children book series that I wrote. I teach a course on the Bill of Rights and the American Revolution. I teach a course on the media industrial complex. And that's just the beginning of what we'll be offering. And I'm actually looking forward to my current course ending, the Bill of Rights course, because I'm going to use the time. I'm going to take an intermission and really start getting ready for September. I want to do some really magical things. And I am going to be on, as soon as this course ends, I am going to be on grind level 10,000 getting ready for September, because I really, really, really want to take what we're doing with Homeschools Connected to another level, which I know it's funny because everyone sees me trying to do that all the time, but So that's what we're doing. And anyone who wants access to that stuff, it's classicallearner.com, and you'll see Homeschools Connected. Use the discount code FREEDOM, and it's $10 a month. Yeah, homeschooling's a family, and we support each other. So we have a primary chat of hundreds of homeschool parents with with an accumulative with an accumulative thousands of years of homeschooling experience. And if you go on there and say, hey guys, I've run into this problem, do you have any suggestions? The community will usually have good answers. And as I tell the community, it is so important to me, it is so important to all of us, that when someone asks a question or says they're having a problem, that every one of us takes the time to give them good answers. Like, that's how we strengthen our community, and that's how we strengthen ourselves, because then when we have questions, it's reciprocal. People will say, hey, this is how you get that help. It's so important. So I call to you, the people. Mandela effect is an African political joke. And listen, like, I'm not killing people that believe in it. I don't buy it. I've looked into it and I don't see it. I think that human beings have gaps in their memory, and people will remember things a certain way, and maybe it happens because, like, maybe there was a commercial, right? Like, maybe there's a commercial related to an event that happened in the past, and that commercial did something a little bit differently than the actual event, right? Which will happen a lot of times for copyright reasons. And then people remember it as the commercial depicted it, right? Like, there's so many reasons why people have gaps in their memory, and I don't buy into Mandela. Yeah, I mean, I need to do better myself with screen time with the kids. Like, that's one of my failures that I struggle with. Like, we try to use it strategically. So we try to use it as, there are times when mom and dad are taking care of things, and, like, we just need the children to be occupied, and we'll use the screen time for that. Other times we use it for educational materials, like reading UC is a good screen time educational material. Codable is like a game that they play where they learn coding. But overall, I just don't like screen time for kids. I live by that quote. It helps me with other perspectives to keep an open mind. I'm changing my name. The Feral Bear. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I will help with the marketing and advertising. Yeah, I assume that's about the podcast. Yeah, like, another thing that would be really helpful is, like, if someone took clips from the podcast and made a channel like podcast clips and posted interesting clips to get people to watch the longer podcast. My barn door was just blowing off the hinges. Oh, yikes. That's crazy. That's nuts. But a great opportunity to teach your children how to put a barn door back on and how to do the hinges. Assuming it's not dangerous. Some doors could be a little too much for that. Just thought the other day, I remember something being orange and my wife remembered it being yellow. My reality was clearing Mandela affected, and my wife's, my reality was Mandela affected, and my wife is just in on it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, there's, like, psychological studies where psychologists could literally, like, through questioning, imprint false memories into people's minds. So like, it doesn't really affect me when there's like 2 million people like, I know it was that. Like, yeah, You know, and then there's like the guy, Matt from Quantum of Conscious, and like he has good opinions, but like I just think like all of these people who are like, reality's not real, reality's fluid, it just changes. Like I don't buy into any of it. Like I don't know. I mean, call me not conspiracy enough. I don't see it. That's like, I don't know. Prove me wrong. It scared the soul out of my body for a split second. Well, get back in there. We need you. We need the feral patriot or the feral bear around. Who was holding the camera for the moon landing? Now that's a good question. The same guy that set up the landline for the space phone call. Right. Right. I mean, people believe that. People believe that they made a phone call from the moon on live television in 1969. Okay, you go and believe that. Like that's okay. The tripod that was magically there before they got there. Melissa, I'm very excited about the package. The brainwashing is deep. There's a glitch in the video. The rabbit hole is deep. Absolutely true. Nicole, tell him to scroll before he gets too far behind. I know, I get far behind. They do it to remove critical thinking. If they can convince your eyeballs, your eyes. Yeah, and one of the things that people should really get ready for, like, all right, can I just tell you, and on the one hand, I'm looking forward to it because I'll get a kick out of it. Please, I beg you, please, oh please, do not fall for the fake alien invasion that is coming. I beg you not to fall for the fake alien invasion. I mean, if you've studied social engineering at all, they are gearing the public up for a fake alien invasion. And if you want to understand why I know it's fake, go read the book Behold the Pale Horse or Beyond the Pale Horse, which was written a long time ago. Go look into something called Project Bluebeam, right? With this technology they have. They are gearing the public up for a fake alien invasion. I don't know if they're going to do it, but if they do, it's going to be hilarious, but not hilarious because people are going to give up all their rights. And that's not hilarious, right? But like, they have been gearing the public up. Like, all of a sudden, first they had the Area 51 run that was promoted by the system a couple of years ago, where they're like, there's gonna be a mass movement for millions of people are just gonna run into Area 51 and we're gonna see the aliens. And it was being promoted by the system. And I'm like, oh man, like you guys don't know how any of this works. Like, then like you go on social media and there's nothing but like just people posting clips of aliens. Then you have a public congressional hearing where they're talking about all of the alien sightings. They're like, oh, there's been all of these unidentified flying objects. Ooh. Like, it must be aliens. Like, for one, if there's unidentified flying objects, that doesn't mean it's aliens. Like is this basic, like, logic? Right? And I'm not even saying that stuff might, like, there might not be some truth to it. Like, I don't know. Like, there could be aliens. Like, I don't know. But what I'm saying is that if they're telling you about it and they're slowly just engineering this, like getting you to be like, maybe, the government doesn't care if you know about aliens or interdimensional beings. They're just doing it to gear you up as part of a psychological operation, right? And then they're going to do this fake alien invasion, and they're going to do projections in the sky, which look very real, and it's going to be scary, and they're going to get people to give up their rights, right? I mean, this is... Anyway, I mean, a lot of the population will fall for it. May not be able to help with setting up your podcast, but if you're looking for a design logo, for your podcast thumbnail or anything, reach out. I can help there. Pharma Bear. I like that. Pharma Bear. Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love help with that. Thank you. classicallearnertoday@gmail.com. I'm running out to tell him now. Scrubbing the stains. I trust in God, and I don't need all the answers to live my life to the fullest and give my babies more. Melissa, it's so funny. You're like, welcome, new friends. Today's topic, homeschool Q&A. And I'm like, don't fall for the fake alien invasion. It's so funny. I don't care. I'm just going to be me. Like, I'm not for everyone. And, like, people that come in here and they're like, what is he talking about? Like, I don't care. Get lost. Like, I'm not for everyone. I've never been. I don't want to be. Like, whatever. And people that have an open enough mind to, like, hear my crazy thoughts and everything, like, it'll literally make your child's life better. So, that's how it's supposed to be. Like, I believe in God, and God wants me to speak truth as I understand it. And, you know, like, Jesus didn't try to appeal to everyone. He wasn't like, oh, I'll say this milquetoast stuff because it appeals to everyone. Like, Jesus spoke truth, and that's what I'm supposed to do. So I'll speak my truth, and if that's not for everyone, that's fine. Pure love in his eyes looking at you. Oh, yeah. I mean, Nicole, it's my, you know. Side question, but what's the screen being you called? Trying to find one? What's the screen being you called? I don't understand the question. Gravy. Couldn't figure out how to link it to your site. Yeah, classicallearner.com. Homeschools Connected. That's Homeschools Connected at classicallearner.com. And just use the discount code FREEDOM. And it's $10 a month. I inbox the new members within like 72 hours. I'm a couple days behind right now. We get a lot of new members, and that's a blessing. But I have to go inbox everyone, and but I do because I like to discuss every members' homeschool and what they're doing, and then give advice as to what I would do. Correct way to raise children, independent, sustainable. Wise for your age. I mean, I'm 34 now. I'm getting up there, but I actually like... I'm not like these vainful celebrities that are like, oh my God, I don't ever want to get older. Like, I like getting older. Like, with age comes wisdom, right? Like, we need to get back to a place in our society where aging is a good thing, and experiencing the world and learning and growing is a good thing. Like, we need to get back to a place where young children look to their elders again and want to learn from them. Because, like, if you ever want to know why the propagandists always appeal to young people, is because they know they don't have wisdom. They don't have experience, so they can convince them of false narratives, right, under, like, cloaky language. Like, they'll use words like tolerance. And like, what, you're not tolerant? And it's like, no, I'm tolerant. I just you're not really trying to be that. You're trying to divide people. Like, it's so obvious, right? But you need wisdom to start to see those things. And that's why in the school system they teach that your ancestors were backwards, your ancestors were bigots, your ancestors are bad people. Oh, old people, they're just not up with the times, because they want young people to look at their elders and say, I don't have anything to learn from you, right? But, as your children grow up, you could explain to them what actually happened with the PSYOP of March of 2020 and how, let's just say, how history is written by the victors. And statistics can be, let's just say you could play with them, right? And like experience shows you that. Yeah, you see the zipper. Oh, this is a gazebo. This is a gazebo. Here. I'm in a gazebo. It's this time of year in the South, there's a lot of mosquitoes, so you want to be in a gazebo or something. Otherwise, you get ripped up. In fact, when I do my gardening, although it's 97 degrees all the time, I usually do my gardening in sweatpants and a sweatshirt, just so the mosquitoes don't bite me the whole time. By the way, just as a point of reference, anytime you guys watch my TikToks, if you could watch the whole video, like, comment, and share it, even if it was with yourself, it's greatly, greatly appreciated. Because the way the algorithm works is it reads like, comments, and shares, and if it sees that, it just shares it out to more people. So anytime I post my talks, if you guys do that, I'd really appreciate it. I mean, Melissa gets that. Melissa's hilarious in my comments because she just gets people geared up. She's, I always laugh when I read your comments because I can tell you're really trying to help me out. And, you're phenomenal. So thank you. So. I feel like I have to slouch to be down to the cameras, but now I'm slouching and my back hurts. Sorry, YouTube. You're just going to have to look up. It's not my most flattering angle, but it is what it is, people. All right. I'll look up my big schnoz. All right. All right. I got to find my other... Actually, I really need to buy a second of this stand. Of this stand right there. This stand is phenomenal. I like this stand. But you're looking at each other. All right. This is how it's going to be, YouTube. Ah, that's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good. All right. Just getting back to where I was in the comments. I like to go through all your comments. And I know I'm behind, but I actually kind of feel like it adds a little, it adds a little bit to the stream. Because then I see your comments. You guys give me stuff to think about. Like, we start to riff. I love it. I love it. Opinion on that thing that I definitely shouldn't talk about. That happened last week. I mean, I haven't looked into the conspiracy angles of it. I haven't dug into the details, so I have no clue. I just, at this point in my life, I don't even care about looking into stuff like that. What I would say is that they use these events, whether they're organic or orchestrated, and understand that, again, I can't even get into why it would be the latter. But if you start to look into the history of these things, they're not always organic. But whether it was organic or orchestrated, it doesn't really matter. They use these things, the system uses these things to attempt to violate the most important of our basic human rights. And understand the Second Amendment is that important. They want you disarmed. And people will say, so you don't care about the children. No, I do. The notion that the only way to protect them is to disarm the population is a false argument. I don't accept that premise. Why don't you see this happen at police stations? I've never seen a police station get lit up. Why is that? Because they're armed. Well, schools they should have people there whose purpose it is to protect the school. Like, this isn't rocket. They try to make it like the only solution is to disarm the population. That's because they want to disarm the population. They don't want you to be able to defend yourself. There are military veterans all over the United. How about this? Like, I'm not always for government programs, but I would be for this. They love to waste our money on everything. How about there's a program that military veterans could sign up for? When you get out of the military, you could sign up for a taxpayer-funded program. I'd be fine with this. In which just like the military veterans signed up for their military service, they could sign up for a job paid for just like we pay military personnel, right? Paid for, where military veterans go straight from military service to protecting schools. And every school in America could have the protection they need of a trained, he wouldn't be there in military garb. He would be dressed like anyone else. Wouldn't even have to announce who he is to everyone. They could even, masquerade as teachers in each school so you don't know who's who. They don't have to open carry. They could, concealed carry. And every school has maybe 4 trained military personnel who, if something like this pops off, the school is completely safe, right? Like, this isn't rocket science. If they wanted to solve the problem would be solved, right? They don't want to solve the problem. They want there to be a problem so that they could get a predictable reaction, and then they could sell you the solution that they had ready to go before the problem. That's how this stuff works. So, like, that's my opinion on that event, and it doesn't really matter. The details don't even matter, right? Like, if you want to talk about solutions, I have solutions that are better than the solutions that they're offering, right? So, like, this isn't like, it wouldn't be that hard for them to figure out. They just don't want to figure it out. They just want to take away your rights. And they want to talk about, they'll have shills like Matthew McConaughey because they think he's likable. They're using his Hollywood likability score, right? Just like they did with Tom Hanks in March of 2020, right? Just like they did with Tom Hanks in March of 2020. They'll roll out Matthew McConaughey. He's likable, right? They have their testing, right? Their public polls. And they'll have him come out very cleverly, say how in favor of the Second Amendment he is. But we just need red flag laws. Okay, so what? So now the government can decide who's mentally fit to have a firearm? Do you think the government would say, I'm mentally fit to have a firearm? Look at what I talked about during this stream. I talked about terrain theory. I talked about flat earth. I talked about mud floods, Tartaria, the Mandela effect. Right? You're going to let these people decide who's mentally fit to own a firearm? That's nonsense, right? So that's my basic synopsis of that. I want to homeschool my kids K through 12, not working. How to start from, K through 12 is not working. How to start in middle school. Go to hslda.org. That is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, HSLDA. They'll have a map of the United States of America. Find your state, click on the map, and you'll have the paperwork you need to file with the school district to declare your intent to homeschool, and you will find the regulations that you need to be familiar with. Second Amendment is there for a reason. It's not for hunting. It's not there for hunting. It's there for protecting the most basic of human liberty, which anyone who hasn't figured out that the government will violate your rights time and time again, like, you're not all there. And like, I'm not accusing anyone in this chat of being that, but like, how is it not obvious that the government has just been violating all basic human rights? And not just now, like governments throughout all of human history. Like this, it's so basic and obvious. Like, I don't, like, if you want to give the people that constantly tell lies to start wars that kill innocent women and children all over the world, like, do you really deserve freedom? Like, that's who you want to have a monopoly over firearms, right? The people who like tell the weapons of mass destruction lie. 500,000 dead children in Iraq. 500,000 from that lie. That's the government. That's who people want to have a monopoly over firearms. Are you kidding me? I mean, come on. This is like, it's so obvious that it's like I shouldn't even have to talk about it. But come on. Come on. Stand up. Get up, stand up. I'm a big fan of Bob Marley, by the way. Stand up for your rights. Oh, it stood up. Get up, stand up. Guys, check out what I did. YouTube doesn't get to see this. I'm going to show them. Ready? Look. You might be able to see it. Look at that. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Yeah, see that one, I believe Bob Marley, they axed. Because Bob Marley refused to take a political position. He wouldn't take a position for anything. He just wanted people to unite. He wouldn't get into it, and because of that, he was a threat. Because he was like, stop squabbling against each other and just unite, come together. And they didn't like that message. I remember when they used to say, in the government yard in Trenton, good friends we had, good friends we lost along the way, in this great future, you can't forget your past. Bob Marley. I would love to hang out with Bob Marley. Like, I don't like the culture he pushed with the, like, I don't think that culture is good for young people, but his mind, he had a great mind. He had a great mind. Plus, he kind of was in that culture. Like, that's the culture he was just, like, that's Jamaica. I'm a big fan of Marley. I wish I had homeschooled. Now they are grown, and I want time back. That's all right. You get the time now. It's fine. Like, here's the thing. Like, we're all doing the best job we can as parents. It's fine. Like, it's, your children know you love them. And as long as they know that and, you're always trying to do the right thing by them, it's fine. Start homeschooling now, even if they're grown adults. Show them the different things they could do in the world. Like, send them videos of interesting things people are doing in the world. Send them a video of a guy who just quit his job because he started a business selling microgreens, and be like, you could sell microgreens and be your own boss. And I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just your mother, your father, and I love you, and I want you to know that there is endless possibility in this world. You could do anything in this world. Don't kick yourself for 1 second. It's fine. Yeah, you can find the regulations at hslda.org. You don't have to join anything. Homeschool Legal Defense Association. Those guys crush. I'm not affiliated with them. They crush. I love them. I pay them. I pay them. They don't pay me. I pay them. I think I pay them. Actually, I don't pay them yet. I have a membership, but it's free because my child's under 5. But when he becomes 5, they will start charging me, and I'm going to keep that membership. I think it'll be like $150 a year because there's not. I don't want to live in a world where they're not funded. Like, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association is phenomenal, and make no mistake about it, they are going to come after homeschool. In fact, the United Nations just pushed a new resolution in which they want global regulation of homeschooling. Is there anything more paradoxical than global regulation of homeschool? Like, these people are vipers. These people are snakes in the grass. They are blood-sucking. Well, anyway, I probably shouldn't. Anyway, like, these people, the United Nations, they want to control what happens in your home and how your children are educated. Thank you for your content. It's the Great Deception. Yes, it is. Have been prepping for a long time. That's great. William Cooper's writing was kind of mind-blowing. Yeah, William Cooper, Beyond the Pale Horse, or Behold the Pale Horse, whatever it is it's a great read. Aliens are demons. That's my conclusion. Yeah, I actually believe that too. That there are demons that have made contact with humanity. I do believe that. But, and people be, oh, what are you talking about? Okay, call them what you want. Call them aliens, call them demons, right? Like, we're talking about semantics here. I do believe that. Like, I've read CIA documents about that. Like, I just, it's interesting, but I don't know. I don't really care. Or fallen angels, right? Like, you could call them what you want. Like, I don't know, but I just, I've dug through enough CIA documents and like old documents to think, all right, they've made contact with entities of a certain type, That's why they come back, is for you being you. Thank you. Thank you. Crazy like a fox. Yeah, Nicole. So this year, my birthday was May 9th. And this year, so Nicole takes out my birthday cake to sing happy birthday. And she set it up, and it was beautiful. And it had a beautiful 33 right there on the cake. So I just looked at her and said, but I'm 34. She forgot how old I was, which is great. Appreciate your content. What do you think about the mud flood? I'm not well versed in the mud flood, but I have seen all of the evidence of the buildings. So if you start to look into that, you have all of these gigantic buildings, and they would appear to be gigantic buildings in their own right. And if you dig them out, some of them have been dug out, there's actually like an entire another half of the building completely buried underground, right? So it's very intriguing stuff, but I still don't consider myself well versed on it, like enough to have a strong opinion. So I don't have a strong opinion about it. And that's what I was talking about before, where it's like you don't have to fill a gap in your worldview in with something else. It's okay to not know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. I know that. Safety net from the CIA bugs. Yeah, well, for those of you that don't know this, and I don't know if I should talk about this, but the CIA did attempt to carry out an assassin. They did try to assassinate me. The other day, I was on my stream, and a bug walked up to me, and it was an assassin bug. And then I squished it. I took it out. But then later in the stream, a second assassin bug walked up to me. And for those of you thinking I'm not, like, what is this guy talking about? If you live in the South, there is a bug, and its name is the assassin bug. And the reason it's called an assassin bug is because its sting, it hurts more than a wasp. And two of these assassin bugs walked up to me on one stream. So I'm pretty sure it was the CIA sending a bug to kill me. Feral Patriot's been 26 for 8 years now. I know, my wife is 30. When I met Nicole, she was so young. It's like crazy for me to think she's 30. I met Nicole the day after her 22nd birthday. She had just turned 22. I met her on December 21st of 2013. We were at a bar, and that was back in my bar days, and she was there, and she was, looking fine as she always does, and, I just walked up behind her. Her phone was in her back pocket, and I thought I was smooth at the time, and I just walked up to her. I was like, I could pickpocket that phone right out of your pocket. I was like, I could have just took that phone right out of your pocket. And that was like my corny pickup line, but it actually worked. And, we just started talking, and before you know it, I introduced my friends, she introduced her friends. We were like, let's jump to another bar. We went to another bar, and we were dancing the night away. Like, we were dancing, having a great time, and then it was the end of the night, and I tried to kiss her, and she shut me down. She wasn't having that. She was like, we just met. And that made me sure like her a lot. And I got her number, and I took her on a date. And then I took her on a date, I think a week later. We went to a restaurant. What was the name of the restaurant? We went to that Mexican restaurant in Rockville Center. Right over the not Rockville Center. In Long Beach, right over the Atlantic Beach, Long Beach border. I don't remember the name of the restaurant. We went there, and we just never stopped hanging out after that. We were just hanging out, and it was great. It was great. So yeah, that was like how Nicole and I started dating, and like we really became inseparable. Like just inseparable about that. Like I fell in love with Nicole like the week I met her. Like craziness. So, and then from there, and then I'm like a completely different person than I was when I met her, and she like put up with all my changes and whatnot. So, my wife's the greatest. What do I think of NASA? I think they're a money laundering operation, and they lie about everything. They prey on the innocent who can't defend themselves. Give purpose to our beloved veterans. Yeah, absolutely. And they would be, it would give them so much purpose. It would help with a lot of the issues that veterans have. It would give them employment, which I think we'd all be down with. Onward to Bartaria. Bartaria times app, absolutely. Yeah. Well, the good thing is most of us can't stand when these celebrities get into politics. Like, we all see what it is, so Matthew McConaughey could get lost. Who likes Tom Hanks? Yeah, I don't know. Have we seen his names on the flight log? Like, I've heard that's fake and I've heard that's true, and I don't know for sure. Like, is it true? I don't know. Either way, I know he's a creep, and I've seen the pictures he posts on his Instagram. Like, real creepy guy, Tom Hanks. Or the skit he did with Jimmy Kimmel, where he, like, real creepy skit he did with Jimmy Kimmel. Like, he's a real creepy guy, Tom Hanks. Right. It's not about don't comply. It's about don't rely on their systems. Absolutely. Bob Marley crushing. There's a song called Everybody Loves Bob Marley. Guess that has multiple meanings, probably. I have mushroom post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, I never messed with any of that. I don't. That stuff scares me. I encourage my daughter to homeschool. That's awesome. Oh, yeah, Nicole found a great chocolate mushroom protein. Not the hallucinogenic type, just, I think, lion's mane mushrooms. Really good for your brain development, which I've had it twice now. I really like it, so pretty cool. Again, not hallucinogenic, just a mushroom that's good for you. Love your content from Massachusetts. Behold the pale horse. Let us know if you have any questions on homeschooling. What homeschooling program do you use? Right now, I use my own, which is Homeschools Connected. We're doing a year-long nature unit study. And I don't use anything formal yet because my boy's only 4. We use Reading UC. I have the Codable app, which I like just so we can learn coding. I have Piano K, the Prodigy's music program, which I like. And then we just do a lot of schooling through living. Like, we don't. I'm a big unschooler. Like, I teach people how to unschool. I actually don't recommend people be as informal as me. I'm like the education guy, so I'm very comfortable being informal. I recommend, like, at early childhood, use like ABC Jesus Loves Me or the Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool just as a reference point so you have stuff. And I did speak with Nicole. In September, we are going to use... I also use Gather Round's photography curriculum. And in September, we're going to be using some of the Good and the Beautiful's curriculum come September. We're here to help and support each other. Yeah, I mean, we have an amazing community, so if you ever have any questions about homeschooling. We found an assassin bug in the laundry room. Oh, I yelled, "Not today, CIA." I love it. I'm 26, and me and my wife have been together since I was 18. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, Nicole was 22, and I was 25 when we met. Now I'm 34. It was 9 years ago. My son is 2 and my husband wants me to homeschool. Yeah, well, start now. Start when he's 2. You don't have to be too formal. A lot of fine motor activities, a lot of music and art. Get him a cool stool so he can help you with the cooking. Go to museums, stuff like that, children's museums, and just start doing it that way, and you'll do great. Yeah, I used to love. Yeah, we all used to love Tom Hanks before we woke up to it, right? Like, we all liked Forrest Gump and Castaway. Like, Tom Hanks, as annoying as he is a phenomenal actor. The guy's phenomenal at acting. And he continues his acting right into real life when he tries to get you to do things that will hurt you. Yes, lion's mane is the mushroom that we have in the protein. I think there's another one too, but I'm forgetting what it is. Homeschool starts the day your children are born. So start with some of the stuff we talked about. Start with a language-rich environment. Narrate the first year of their life. Oh, look, I picked up the pottery. Or the bowl. We'll call it the bowl. I picked up the bowl. Oh, I'm holding the bowl. The bowl is in my hands. Do you want to touch the bowl? Here, touch the bowl. Oh, you're touching the bowl with your hands. That's amazing. Can you give me? You gave me. I have the bowl. The bowl is on my head. Right? Like language-rich environment. Start at a young age. School and education are not the same thing. It's never been late. That's another great shirt, by the way, Nicole. That's another great shirt. All right, my voice is tired. I'm exhausted. Anyone that wants to check out what we do, Homeschool's connected at www.classicallearner.com. Check that out. Use the promotion code FREEDOM. It's $10 a month. You'll love it. And you could find me, Classical Learner, on everything. All right, guys, freedom isn't free. We have to earn it every day, and I will be back maybe tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. to earn it, but I have class tomorrow. I'm teaching a course on the Bill of Rights and the American Revolution, and if I feel like I'm ready, I spend that time getting ready. But if I feel like I'm ready for class, I'll do a live stream. We do not co-parent with the government. Louder for the ones in the back. 10, 9, 8. This countdown is for Melissa. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, also don't talk to your children like they're babies. I agree with that. I'm being peppered with nickels. I'm going to start dancing. Ooh, the nickels. Ooh, the peppering. All right, bye, YouTube.